Okay, good evening, all. Thank you so much for being here, first of all. Nope. Dang, already starting off. I swear I'm doing better this time, I swear. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you're here, then you might possibly be a glutton for punishment, but I appreciate it. Sorry that I was 2 minutes late. My dog decided she wanted to be walked at the last minute. So tonight we are going to talk about, I'm sure that you all have heard of the I'm going to refer to him this whole show as him, but the little boy has who has had his own TV show for a number of years called I Am Jazz. He is one of the first transgender children, especially in such a public sphere. And now, lately, he's been kind of trending because let me just make sure you guys can hear me because now I'm starting to go all the way in. And last time, where is it? I don't even know. Oh, right. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to do a quick mic check. Sorry, the dog threw me all the way off. Ran out with her real quick. Okay. Hi, super wise woman. Thanks for being here. Okay. Can I hear it though? Can I hear it? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. So, Jazz has had his own TV show since about 2015. And the reason why he has been in the limelight lately is a video surfaced of him having a conversation with his mom. And basically, in the video, it sounds as though he might be regretting everything that's been done, which is so heartbreaking to hear because, I mean, if you don't know already, he has had some extensive surgeries. So, just to break it down a little, just in case you don't know his story, he came out the first time we saw him in the public sphere. It was about 2007. He came on 2020 with Barbara Walters, and she interviewed him, and he was like in a dress and talking about how he felt like a girl and all that stuff, of course. And when him and his mom tell the story about how they decided that he was transgender, basically it boils down to him telling his mom that he asked his mom the question, I'm sorry, of when is the fairy going to come and take my penis away and make it a vagina? Now, I have children in my life and I know 3-year-olds. I'll just come out and say it. I have kids of my own. And I know that 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, they're not that boisterous. And to be able to run together a sentence or even a thought that intricate is really hard to believe. So that already sounds a little bit weird just to start off on the base. Then from there, he had the interview with Barbara Walters, and at about 11, he started to actually, so he socially transitioned, which if you guys don't know what that is, that's when you start to present as the other gender. So, changing your name, dressing that way. And obviously, if you're going from a boy to a girl, wearing longer hair, things like that. That's what they call socially transitioning, just because obviously everyone around you can see that, what you want them to portray you as. He started to medically transition around 11. That was when they started him on the puberty blockers and the hormones and all that stuff. He has an injection in his arm, and he said that he's had that changed out about 3 times. So he has this little thing in his arm that is all of those medications in one. And which even that is a little scary because, you know, if at any point he wanted to change his mind, he would have to go back to, like, he couldn't just make that choice. So anywho, I did want to, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there, guys. So I do have a video to show you guys. And so if you don't know already, I kind of enjoy my videos. I think it kind of breaks it up a little bit for us. And this first one is an interview with Jazz and Oprah, who, you know, I'm sure most of you here follow Citizen Man, so you know what all the elites are about. And if you don't, then head over to Citizen Man TV, and he has this stream here where he breaks down what the elites are about, what their drives are, and what's all the shady stuff that they're into that, you know, the public, us public, don't really have on our radar. So this is our first video. Not that one, this one. So just the fact that it's Oprah is already kind of a red flag.
Well, here we are again.
Over the past several months, I have been sending Dr. Bowers and Dr. Ting photos, but it's been a little while now since they've last examined me in person, so I think it's going to be really good for them to look.
All right now. See, I done talked bad about Oprah. Now she don't want the video. Don't want to play. I was trying to get these dang things downloaded, but they were giving me a hard time.
So you watch the world as I watch the world as Bruce Jenner came out.
Yes.
He was 65.
Mm-hmm. Goodness gracious.
65 when he got the courage to say this is
nice. Okay.
Who I am. What was that moment like for you, having done that? At 5. Who I am. What was that moment like for you, having done that?
All right, technical difficulties. So it looks like I'm going to have to skip that one.
What was that moment like for you?
Because it does not want to cooperate. Okay, so basically what I was going to get at from this video was, okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm just going to move on. So let me close it so it doesn't try to play in the background. Okay. Alrighty, so we'll move on to our first article. Popular trans teen star realizes how wrong it's all gone. And that's a fairly recent picture of Jazz. If there's a perfect case for transitioning young children, it must be Jazz Jennings. Born Jared Jennings in 2000, Jennings gained fame at a young age, barely 6, when he publicly identified as trans and received all the positive reinforcement from his mother and even celebrities like Oprah that any child could ever crave. Jared chose the female name Jazz after Jasmine from Disney's Aladdin, his favorite Disney princess. But now he says on his current TV show, I Am Jazz, all I want to be is happy and feel like me, and I don't feel like me ever. And they go into the video, which now I'm scared. Let me see if I can get that one playing. So the video it's really quick, but it kind of shows where all of this is coming from and why we've been seeing why we've been seeing Jazz's name more and more.
So, are you feeling like you wanted to start talking about? Are you okay? I'm okay. I'm gonna cry. You know, I can't get out of my head. I know.
I should have never did that.
No, listen. It just doesn't stop. It's okay. Give me a hug. It's okay. I know what you're going through. We've been there before. No, it still doesn't stop now. And I'm already going back to negative. But the more you're talking about yourself, it gets harder. Mm-hmm. You're digging in and it's making you put a magnifying glass on what's already difficult as it is. So this is hard for you. I know. And we don't want to push you anymore. I know I'm the one doing it. Like, I know you're your own worst enemy. I feel kind of all over the place and like my mind is very cluttered and not clear. And I really want to have that clarity. I really want to understand myself and be able to read my own soul and what I want. And it's just very challenging. And I think I'm kind of breaking down a little bit and spiraling into negativity. I just want to feel like myself. Like, that's it. I don't care. All I want is to be happy and feel like me. And I don't feel like me ever.
Now, obviously, watching that is heartbreaking. First of all, sorry about the horrible quality, guys, but at least it played. That's a step in the right direction. But it's heartbreaking to watch because obviously he's starting to regret things. You know, he's in a place now where he's coming into adulthood. He's 22 years old. You know, he wants to find love. He wants to hit those milestones in life, and everything is kind of coming full circle, you know, and there's no getting away from what was done to him because and I say done to him, obviously, because all of his procedures were done before he was old enough to consent, you know? So now here he is coming into his adulthood and his future is very bleak, unfortunately. And I think that he's starting to realize that. Following the initial surgeries, Jennings gained over 100 pounds through binge eating and experienced a range of mental health disorders. Jennings' mother, Jeanette, deflected theories that those difficulties were caused by the penile inversion vaginoplasty and argued that Jazz had long experienced mental health issues. I mean, even that statement is kind of a red flag, right? He had long experienced mental health issues. I mean, from before he could remember, he was being, in my opinion, groomed to go down this road, you know, even in the video we watched. He's telling his mom, something's not right. I don't feel right. I don't feel like myself. And she's here trying to get him to fall back in line. And yeah, you're okay. You're just getting in your head. Don't think about it. What do you mean don't think about it? This is my life. This is my body that has been irrevocably altered, you know? So to sit here and be so callous and tell me not to think about it, like clearly you don't really care about me. And I think just everything that they were able to do to their son makes it blatantly clear that they don't care about him. And yeah, super wise woman, exactly. He wanted to be like his sisters, and he didn't really know what that meant. You know, we all have that phase as kids where we're figuring things out and trying different things, and they just kind of took it to the, I mean, he was 2, you know, so to say that he really knew what he wanted or could choose what gender he wanted or what have you is crazy. That's crazy. I don't even let my 2-year-old pick what he's going to eat for dinner. You know why? Because he'll pick candy. I mean, it's just simple logic. Sorry. I am so sorry about that. But yeah, I don't even understand how they, in their heads, can rationalize that this was something that was okay to do to a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 11-year-old, 22-year-old. I mean, anywhere on that, during that process, the decision could have been made to stop. And then now, as it said, skip that one. Now, as it said, he's struggling with his weight. Why? Because he's depressed. Because he can't even look in the mirror and feel okay with what he's looking at. They started him on the transitioning drugs at 11, which I stated, right? So for some reason in the trans community, they feel as though starting these things before a person hits puberty is the best course of action, because then they have less, at least, of the qualities and characteristics of their natural born gender, right? However, when these children have these transitions and take the medications prior to puberty, they're missing out on more than just the hormones to grow hair under their arms or on their chest or on their face, or more than just the hormones to, bring them to sexual maturity for whatever gender that is. They're also missing the hormones to fall in love. That happens when your brain matures during puberty, to recognize what that is and what that feels like, to be physically aroused. These are things that happen to our bodies when we go through puberty, right? To have an orgasm. And I just remembered that was the one that I forgot. So yeah, I think I have another video to show it though. If they don't have those hormones, they can't hit these normal milestones for adults. So now we are reducing them to living a life where they can never really truly feel love. They can never have physical arousal. If they choose to have the gender reconstruction surgery, it's basically a cosmetic surgery, and that whatever they have is just for show. There's no use to it. And then they can never have an orgasm. I mean, if they're lucky enough that their surgery is a quote unquote success and they do have feeling, they would never be able to have any type of, sexual pleasure. I think it's this one. Yes. And this kind of goes into exactly that. Hopefully it plays. Fingers crossed, guys. Looks like a no, but it's fine. Oh. Hold on now. Hold the phone.
To look at everything and get a game plan on.
So Jazz and his family are... Oh, there we go.
Well, here we are again.
It's teasing me. Okay, so basically, I'll just summarize. He goes
over the past several months. I have been sending Dr. Bowers and Dr.
I give up. So
photos, but it's been a little while now since they've last examined me in person. So I think it's going to be really good for them.
All right, I learned my lesson. Somebody out there is saying I told you so. I know. So basically, to summarize, they go to a doctor's appointment for Jazz where he is... So total for his reassignment surgery, he had four reassignment surgeries. And the reason for that is that 3 of them were basically botched, where they had to go back in and fix something. So after his first one, they had some like really severe reaction. And I can't show you the video, so I have to again summarize, where stitches were I think the stitches were coming apart, or, they said that the vagina that they had created for him basically started to implode on itself. So they had to rush him into the OR, and his doctor who did the original surgery wasn't available. So he had to get another doctor. And, logic will tell you that you don't really want too many cooks in the kitchen, especially for something so delicate. And after that one, he had more complications and had to go back in again. The original plan was for him to have 2 surgeries. The first one would be to remove the phallus and, create the opening. And then the second one would be after some months after things had healed, to work on the appearance of everything. Because they botched it, he had 3 for the first part of it. And so this video was going to show him going in to have the doctors, the 2 surgeons now, because the 2 of them decided to be co-surgeons since they both had their hands in the surgery. And they were doing a consultation with the 2 surgeons, basically having a look at the progress and deciding what to do going forward. Problem is, the 2 surgeons are arguing the whole time. They can't agree on how to do it. All of this is happening right in front of Jazz and his family. And then at one point, one of the doctors goes, well, you could be a porn star with all the pictures that we've been taking. And it's just like, like, how do you make such a crude joke in front of, I mean, he's no longer a child. No, I lie. At that point, he was 17, 18. So yeah, still a child. And about something that you pretty much messed up. You have mutilated this child and you're here making jokes about it. Like, there should be no laughing in this situation, in my opinion. And you can see Jazz's face is completely worried. And, it was just a debacle, quite honestly. So the kid had 4 reassignment surgeries and eventually, in the end, ended up with the closest semblance of female genitalia that they could create for him. The problem was that because he had started taking his reassignment hormone so young, his phallus was still that of a child. And because there wasn't much tissue there, that's part of the reason that they struggled so much with his surgeries. And I mean, it really amounts to, at this point, they mutilated him. There's no other if, ands, or buts about it. I mean, it is what it is. Now, I wanted to So as you can see, as you did see within the video with Jazz and his mom, how controlling they are with the situation and how they are, gaslighting him to keep him continuing on this road, no matter what he's thinking. And I truly believe that it was a scam in order to, gain notoriety for the parents and money and all of that. And it's just disgusting. It really is. I mean, Jazz came out at a time when this was still very new. Again, another reason that he struggled the way he did with his whole process. But it's like he became, I don't want to say a freak, like super wise woman, but I'd have to agree, like, it's true, because unfortunately they completely destroyed his body it's like he was a science project, like almost like Frankenstein, like, will this work? Won't this work? We're not sure, but you know what? We'll try it anyway. In his consultation, I believe his doctor told him that the doctor had tried this on 5 people before him, and no one with the circumstances that he was in, meaning, having the anatomy of a child already and not really having much to work with in order to complete the surgery. When Jazz described it, he said that they had to take some of the, I think it was the perineal tissue out of his stomach in order to create the vaginal canal. Like, it's just, I feel like unfortunately, my videos aren't working. So I would implore you all to go, if you're still curious about it, go and watch a couple videos because he talks about it very candidly, about the process and how they did everything. And I'd love to show you. But when he talks about it, it sounds as though they were just kind of like, I'm not really sure. Like, let's throw this in, let's throw that in. Who knows if it's going to work or not? And clearly it didn't. Clearly he's now struggling. Clearly he's depressed. He's gaining weight. He can't seem to get it under control no matter how hard he tries. And it's just really sad to watch. There, he had posted a picture of himself. Oh, I wanted to read this to you guys first before I showed you that last video, which I forgot. So this was a tweet that he had put out before he had his reassignment surgery that said, I'm going to have new genitalia, like penis to vagina. That's some serious stuff, y'all. That was in a YouTube video. And then Jazz, whose 3rd and possibly 4th gender, in which he did have 4, will be covered even more in season 6 of her show, I Am Jazz, told ABC News that he saw his surgery as the end of his transition. I've gone through the whole medical process, and this is really the last thing that will validate my identity as a woman, he said. There's nothing else after this. I just get to be myself. be in the body I've always wanted, and then I can live my life as just Jazz. Unfortunately, a lot of people who have gender dysphoria or who choose to alter their bodies in this way feel that the surgery is going to kind of fix everything. And then they realize that it doesn't. It really truly doesn't. So this is Jazz now. Jazz is a 22-year-old transgender woman, and you can see his scar across his thighs, and it's just kind of heart-wrenching to see how much that this is just a small little glimpse of what he went through, but his life is irrevocably it's changed in a way that he can never go back from. And it's just, yeah, he's in this tweet said how proud he is of his body and his scars. And these are my scars on full display in 2019. I'm proud of my scars and love my body just the way it is. I call them my battle wounds because they signify the strength and perseverance it took to finally complete my transition. And I read a couple of his tweets, and honestly, it sounds like somebody else is writing them for him. It sounds like somebody who's able to do the word salad, for lack of a better word, string a lot of nice words together, is writing his tweets for him. And that, of course, that's just my opinion. So that I would like, which I've been showing you guys this slide for quite a while. So obviously this is where I'm going next. And this I thought was very interesting because something that I have been covering a lot on my IG. Oh, speaking of, if you have not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that button. Don't forget to hit the like. And you can also follow me on IG, and that's at RnBBae, and also on Rumble, same RnBBae. So on Rumble, I go ahead and upload all my same videos that I do here, just in case, because I've been hearing about a lot of people having trouble on YouTube, and I don't want no problems. So I'm just kind of getting ahead of the game. So if you guys have a Rumble and you're looking for more people to follow, cling, 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 go ahead and follow me over there too. So this, I was going to say, I've been covering this a lot on my IG page because I've been seeing a lot of drag shows, which of course I have videos that I can't show you, but I'm going to put some up on my IG. So if you guys are interested, go ahead over there and you will see exactly what I mean. And they're kind of disturbing, quite honestly, but we've been seeing a lot of the drag story hour, the taking kids to drag shows, and a lot of this push on our kids, which obviously we see how well that went with Jazz, and it seems as though this is something that they would like to spread it as far and wide as they could. However, Nebraska ain't really down for it. Really? Okay. Omaha psychotherapist Megan Smith wasn't surprised when she learned state lawmakers had introduced bills that she said could harm transgender clients. Oh yeah, we're back here, Smith recalled thinking when she heard about the proposals introduced in the Nebraska legislature this year. Smith has spent the last 20 years working with trans youth and said legislation intent on restricting that community is nothing new, but LG, you know the rest, Bright's associates say there's an abnormally large amount of bills focused on trans rights facing Nebraska lawmakers. At least 4 bills were introduced this season that would either directly or indirectly limit opportunities for trans Nebraskans. The lawmakers, who introduced the legislation said their main intent is to protect children. It should be all of our main intent, honestly. But I definitely respect that. And all of the bills are backed by multiple co-sponsors. Supporters argue the legislation could help save at-risk children. Oh, I cut it off there. Could help save at-risk children from lasting and potentially devastating harm. At least 4 bills were introduced this season that would either... Wait, I read that already. Oh, I guess I didn't know that I'd be able to read that last sentence. But multiple critics have described the attempts as part of a nationwide coordinated attack on the trans community, an already vulnerable group that experiences higher rates of suicide and victimization of violent crime. It's kind of funny because I've realized that this community tends to tote the suicide, quote, you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes, suicide always as the reason for why we should allow, this to continue. And the thing is that if you're a consenting adult, you can do what you want, obviously. Nobody can tell you what you can and can't do. But what we're focusing on is the kids. And they keep pushing this idea, even with Jazz. They told his parents, if you don't do this, there's a chance that he might want to delete himself, which is crazy because what actually happens is that a lot of the kids who transition young and then get older and realize that they made a huge mistake, they're the ones who end up having suicidal thought. Oh, I keep saying the word. Goodness. New to this, guys, bear with me. They're the ones who end up having those, self-harming thoughts and a lot of times going through with it, but we're not going to see those headlines because that doesn't suit the narrative. So they're not going to show us this stuff. I mean, and we already know that, right? But they're not going to show us this stuff on the headlines and on the front of our newspapers or what have you, because they know that it's going to show the other side of this community and that it is a possibility that it can go bad and that people will choose to harm themselves even with having these procedures. But for some reason they hide behind this, oh, if you don't do it, your kid is going to harm themselves, which isn't even true. They don't even give these kids a chance to decide for themselves it's like the doctors deciding for the parent and the child what the child should do. Legislative bills 574 and 575, both introduced by State Senator Kathleen Kuth of Omaha, are focused on trans youth. LB 574, dubbed the Let Them Grow Act, would prohibit gender-altering procedures for individuals under 19, including surgical procedures, hormone therapy, and puberty blockers. Yes, 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 yes. That's exactly what I just said. Give them a chance to get older and decide, this is what I want. And I know this is what I want. And then, I mean, Jazz is the prime example that them starting those hormone hormone therapy and puberty blockers too young made it harder for him to go ahead and have that sexual reassignment surgery. So quite honestly, it's a win-win for those who do decide that they want to go ahead with it, to allow their bodies to fully mature. Then they're getting all the hormones that they need to, be a fully formed adult. And then they can choose, okay, yes, I'm sure I would like to cut off my penis. Then the legislative bill 575, the Sports and Spaces Act, would restrict access to school bathrooms and locker rooms on the basis of biological sex and would add similar restrictions to most school sports teams. This would effectively ban trans youth from entering spaces or participating on teams they otherwise would based on their gender identity. Again, yes, yes, yes. I mean, we've seen plenty of stories of trans, especially boys that claim that they're girls, going into girls' bathrooms and causing those girls harm, whether it be forcing themselves on those girls or beating them up or exposing themselves in the bathroom. So yeah, I agree with that. I mean, obviously, I'm here, right? I think that these are two great bills. Let's see what else they got, y'all. Legislative Bill 810. None of these have been passed yet. They're actually going back into session later this week to decide what they're going to do. The Medical Ethics and Diversity Act, introduced by Senator Dave Merman of Glenville, would allow medical practitioners English, y'all. English. Hold on. Let me take a sip of water. That'll help. Okay. I guess not. I lied. Okay. Medical Ethics and Diversity Act, introduced by Senator Dave Merman of Glenville, would allow medical practitioners, institutions, and insurance providers to opt out of the You guys probably can't even understand what I'm saying because I cannot read right now. I am so sorry. Let me just slow down. Would allow medical practitioners, institutions, and insurance providers to opt out of care that conflicts with their ethical or religious beliefs. This would apply to the same gender-altering treatment noted in Legislative Bill 574. I did it. I made it. Okay, so basically it sounds like this one is saying that, the doctors or the hospitals or the insurance can decide that they're not going to cover it or they're not going to, go ahead and do that procedure on that child. Which, again, is awesome. Assuming that they would actually take that up, because it seems to me like they're bought into it too, because these procedures are pricey, so that's money in their pocket. So why wouldn't they do it? And that's the sad part. Legislative Bill 31, also introduced by Merman, would ban individuals under 19 from attending drag shows. Though the bill doesn't specifically reference trans people, critics have argued that the vague language of the bill doesn't provide a distinction between a drag performer and a trans performer. I don't really know why it matters. Whether they're a drag performer or a trans performer, if they're going to be up there scantily clad and shaking their being trying to over-sexualize our children, I don't care what they call themselves, it's not okay. And that's really what it boils down to. So now it's like they're trying to nitpick, and I really hope that these people don't fall for that, because we've seen it happen. But at the end of the day, it does not matter what you call yourself. You should not be finding any way to, you should not think it's okay to sexualize our children in any way, shape, or form. The proposals are familiar across the U.S., though Nebraska is a couple years late to the trend, according to Abby Swatsworth, executive director of All the Alphabet's Rights, nonprofit out Nebraska. Dozens of state lawmakers across the nation have introduced similar legislation over the last few years. Kauth previously told the World Herald that she reviewed similar laws passed in, how did I do that? North Carolina, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark, and Oklahoma before drafting her bills. In an email, this is what happens when you're rushing, guys. Oh, see, I'm so smart, and I was wrong. It was South Carolina. I tried. I had a 50-50 shot. So it was South Carolina and Oklahoma before drafting her bills. In an email, she said she also did other research and spoke to trans people who detransitioned, and doctors. This year has already brought a surge of legislation that the ACLU has labeled anti-alphabet soup. According to the organization, more than 260 such bills have been proposed in the U.S. state houses in 2023. According to LB 371, LB 574, and LB 575, the trend is likely a symptom of the increased trans and non-binary representation in public life, which can be a double-edged sword, according to David Johns, executive director of the National Black... Yeah, okay. Okay, Nebraska is no stranger to this resistance. In 2021, the Nebraska Department of Education faced fierce backlash when it drafted optional health and sex education standards that were both comprehensive in scope and inclusive of diverse genders and sexual orientation. Yeah, sorry, I had to reread that. Which I agree. I think that the whole teaching kids about being non-binary and, that there's more than two genders, there's like 25, which is crazy. All of that is ridiculous. Like, it's just going to confuse them. What's up, citizen man? How you doing? I hope you heard me shout you out earlier. Come on now. This thing don't want to zoom. Okay. The department halted any progress on the controversial standards that same year, but the topic was an animating force in the 2020 races for the State Board of Education. The health standards remain a talking point for Republican lawmakers at the Capitol. Swadsworth said trans rights are a common wedge issue that conservative lawmakers use for political gain. However, she and other alphabet soup activists say the bill don't address any real problems facing their constituents. There's always an issue. It's making a non-issue an issue. But it is an issue. I mean, for them, for the alphabet soup, they don't think it's an issue because they want to be able to continue to, get to our children in whatever way possible. So, of course, they're like, why are we all up in arms about this? There's so many other things going on in the world. No, in my opinion, this is one of the most important things going on in our world because these are our children. They're our next generation. They're our legacy. And if they have it their way, there won't be another generation after them, in my opinion. Kauth, I kind of cut this one off, guys. So I don't think I saved it on the next one, unfortunately. Contends she wants to prevent a problem before it happens. Well, good. I'm glad you were flattered. Contends she wants to, sorry, I'm just going to skip that part because I have it cut off. So I'm just going to go ahead because she's just talking a whole lot. I couldn't get that out of the picture. I'm sorry. While the alphabet soup right activist says anti-trans legislation won't bring the benefit lawmakers claim they will, they have noted the bills could cause extreme harm. Senator Megan Hunt of Omaha, one of two openly, y'all know what, Nebraska lawmakers said the bill could increase the risk of violent hate crimes against trans people. Several other critics echoed this sentiment, and that's the other talking point. So if they're not telling parents that they have to get the surgery because their kid is going to delete themselves, then they tote that as soon as someone speaks out against their movement, that, oh, it's going to be violence towards them, or, oh, people are going to try to harm them in some way. And I mean, that doesn't really make sense because if we now have legislation to prevent you from doing the things to our children or in front of our children that we don't want you to do, then there's really no reason for us to try to hurt you, is there? I mean, it sounds as though they might get upset and have, protests and get up in arms and all that about it. However, I think if anyone who's on the opposite side of it, it's kind of like I'm getting my way. So why would I hurt you? The American Medical Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics have publicly expressed support for making gender-affirming care available for trans youth. The AMA also opposed bills similar to LB 574, calling such efforts a dangerous intrusion into the practice of medicine. And that was the one where they said, let's have the kids wait until they are old enough to make the decision for themselves. And that's a dangerous intrusion into the practice of medicine, which is crazy. Crazy. I mean, kids can't buy cough medicine. They can't go to Walmart. They can't go to the grocery store. They can't, buy cough medicine. Like I don't understand how I can, oh my God, they can consent to changing their bodies in a way that they can never change back, but they can't buy cough medicine if they're sick. It's just, there's no logic. There really isn't. The Nebraska Catholic Conference disagrees and supports LB 574 and LB 575 and 810. Marion Miner, the group's associate director of pro-life and pro-family policy, said while the AMA and APP are likely Oh, shoot. How'd I do that? Where'd it go? I don't know. We can see it coming, and we want to prevent that. According to a Reuters report, Sweden revised its recommendations on puberty. And this was actually the article I read on the last show. So if you guys haven't watched that, go ahead and head over to my last show, Regret is Not Rare, Detransition on the Rise. And I actually go over most of this article. I didn't cover the whole thing because that thing was long, but I did go over most of it. And according to that article, Sweden revised its recommendation on puberty blockers and hormone treatments for adolescents to caution against providing the treatment. Thank you. Pronounced Reuters. Nice, because I was butchering it. And then I knew it was wrong, but I was like, they know what I mean. So basically what happened in that article is they were telling us about wait, is that the article? The United Kingdom shut down its only state-run gender clinic last year due to complaints of inadequate service and plans to open multiple facilities in its place this year. Oh, great. Great. When it comes to trans youth in school, Smith, the Omaha-based psychotherapist, said Nebraska schools have already figured it out. She said LB 575 will just families of trans students who are already dealing with stress. Burden? Yeah, it's burden. It's just going to burden them. And 575 was the one that said that they can't join sports or go into bathrooms that are of the gender that they quote unquote define with. They have to stick with their natural born gender. Families already feel not supported enough. It's like an emotional appeal. You know, everything that they've been saying is, oh, why we can't do this because we don't like the way that that feels. And we can't do that because it's going to make me feel bad. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the safety of our kids. So to quote Citizen Man, fuck your feelings. Smith has worked with Nebraska schools on this issue before and said, oh, I cut it off again. Sorry, guys. I really was rushing. Most of the time, schools were able to accommodate trans students' needs fairly easily, with making other students uncomfortable. Though these schools often prepared for pushback after making such accommodation, she said it rarely came. Huh. I don't think I cut off too much because it still made sense. Smith and other trans rights supporters argued that trans youths are some of the most vulnerable people in society. Yeah, they are pretty vulnerable. You know who they're vulnerable to? Their parents who are pushing them to cut off their genitalia or friggin' try to give them a fake phallus that they can't even use, can't even pee through. The doctors who think that, and this is the only way to affirming their quote unquote identity is the only way to treat gender dysphoria, which anybody who's worth their salt would say that that's a mental disorder and that they should get some type of therapy in order to get through that. And how about the fact that 80% of dysphoric kids, gender dysphoric kids, grow out of it? Most of us can tote that we, especially females, of course, can tote that we were tomboys when we were younger. I was a huge tomboy. And I don't know if it was as far as quote unquote gender dysphoric, but I was definitely curious about what it was like to be a boy. And I probably, if somebody gave me the chance and said, do you want to be a boy? I'd probably be like, yep. But I was a kid. I didn't know what I was asking for. I didn't know what that meant. They grow out of it, but we're not even giving them a chance to grow. Smith and some other trans rights supporters argue that trans youths are some of the most vulnerable people in society. Again, really? Of course they are. They're being brainwashed. According to research published in the National Library of Medicine, 40% of trans people have attempted suicide, with trans youths experiencing the greatest risk of suicide. And you know what? What they don't say is that most of that happens after they start to transition to the other gender. But they can't say that part because that, again, doesn't suit their narrative. Multiple reports also note that trans people are more likely to be victims of violent crime. A 2021 study by the Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law found trans people ages 16 and up were victimized over 4 times more than I hate that word. I hate that freaking word, cisgender. It's like such a slap in the face. But that's another story for another day. The story relied on data from 2017 and 2018. Kauth, I'm probably butchering her name, but it's fun to say it like that, argued LB 575 is about respecting the privacy and dignity of all students, and it isn't meant to criminalize or target trans youth. We have a lot of students who don't have to deal with this, and all of a sudden we're altering their experience, Kauth said. Of the 4 bills, Swadsworth was the only one that Swadsworth said the only one that surprised her was LB 317 because drag restrictions, I think that was the one that said that kids can't go to drag shows. Because drag restrictions are what the heck? Oh. I did that way too many times. Okay, cut it off again. Nebraska drag queen Katina Tenson and Nebraska drag queen performance spaces are limited, with none that she knows of in either Mermin or Cowes districts. It's rare for someone under 19 to attend a drag show. Lies. That's a lie. That is a big fat lie. Sorry, I gotta call it out. She said, although they are sometimes used as safe spaces for LG elemental P use. Several districts of, wow, I just completely made up a whole word. Several critics of LB 371 have argued the bill's language is too vague. Swadsworth said the bill doesn't differentiate a drag performer from a trans person, so it's unclear whether minors would be allowed to watch a trans person perform anything under the language. So that's fine. They cannot watch either one. Let's just make it real crisp and clear. If you out here dressing and perpetrating yourself as something that you're not, if you are trying to sexualize our kids, then you cannot perform for them. Okay? Tension also noted the broad language of the bill and said, often lawmakers who propose drag restrictions don't understand the difference between a drag performer and a trans person. People of all sexualities and gender identities can perform in drag, including straight people. That really, again, doesn't really matter. Mermin acknowledged he also had concerns with the bill's language and introduced an amendment to clarify what would qualify as drag performance. The amendment would define a drag performer as an artist that exhibits a gender identity that is, if I had a little bit more of the word, I probably could have called it out, but I think I did it again. I'm like leaving you guys on all of these cliffhangers because I cut off all my slides. Oh no, this is it continued. It would treat drag shows as similar to or exactly like strip shows. Advocacy groups and some lawmakers have loudly sounded their opposition to the bills. Hunt introduced kill motions on 3 of the 4 bills almost immediately after they were introduced. In contrast, supporters of the legislation have been quiet but steady. All 4 bills are co-sponsored by at least 8 other lawmakers. Minor said supporters may feel too intimidated to speak out for fear of backlash. He pointed to Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling as an example, saying her life was made absolutely miserable after she made several online statements people consider transphobic. Kauth said LB 574 and LB 575 are emotional bills that urge lawmakers to think logically rather than emotionally about considering them. And what J.K. Rowling said basically was that the trans movement is, it's going to, God, I'm so bad at paraphrasing. Sorry, guys, I'm not even going to do it. I hope that people take a breath, take a beat, and think very carefully about how this works. 2 of the 4 bills have public hearings coming up this week. LB 574 has its hearing in the Health and Human Services Committee Wednesday afternoon. LB 810, also assigned to HHS, has its hearing Friday morning, and this is this week that they're talking about, because this article came out at the end of last week. LB 575, assigned to the Education Committee, is scheduled for hearing on, I lied, February 13th. How the hell? Hold on. Let me just double check, because I could have sworn this joint said. Oh, no, this was February. So, my bad, y'all. I straight lied. So, I'll have to give you guys an update on what happened with those. I don't know what I was looking at that said. Lost my whole sign. There we go. And LB 371, assigned to the Judiciary Committee, does not have a public hearing scheduled yet. I believe that, I don't know if all 4 of them passed, but I know for sure that I heard about the not allowing drag shows in front of children. I know that one passed for sure. I remember hearing about that recently, but I can look up the other 3. The department halted any progress on the controversial standards that same year, but the topic was an animating force in the 2020 races for the Senate Board of Education. The health standards remain a talking point for Republican lawmakers at the Capitol. Swatsworth said trans rights are a common wedge issue that conservative lawmakers use for political gain. However, she and other alphabet soup activists say the bill doesn't address any real problems facing their constituent. That's a repeat. Sorry, y'all. I think that was the end of the article then. Yeah, that was it on that. So, to sum it all up, we all know that this movement has nothing but negative intentions for our kids, and they frame it out to be some type of healthcare or something positive for them, while they are serving our children up as mincemeat, basically. They are, speaking of mincemeat, and I showed this video on my last show, but if you did not get to see it, let me just lead it in a little bit. They're serving our kids up as mincemeat. And why I say that is because they are chopping and cutting and attaching and moving and trying to make something that isn't there, or trying to take away something that is there. Either way, they're playing God. And they're framing it to be healthcare. And we all know that there are plenty of other ways to treat these disorders. There are plenty of other ways to address the issues that are facing these kids who might be confused. They're not even trying to go that route. They're not even trying to look at a less harsh or less invasive way to help our children. So, in my opinion, there's no other way to look at it, but this is a purposeful push. This is something that they have been planning, and that they want as many of our kids to sign up for, and as many of their parents to allow it to happen. What I was discussing today was that what I believe the purpose of everything is that, I mean, we all have already talked about population control. And if they can stop our kids from ever being able to have any type of sexual experience, then obviously they can't reproduce. That's the saddest part for Jazz, is that he'll never be able to father a child. He'll obviously never be able to mother a child. So, in essence, and I hate to say it, he's a eunuch. You know, what he now has, there's no use for it. and no functionality, and he's going to be stuck in this body now for the rest of his life. And it's such a sad reality. And I honestly think that his parents and his doctors should be in prison. So the last thing I want to show you guys is a video, which it's like an animation of that gender reassignment surgery for a boy turning into a girl. And obviously it's prevalent because we talked about Jazz here. It speaks for itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that. Luckily, this one is downloaded, so it should play just fine. Oh, goodness, I can't even.
Well, here's the procedure. Open the sac, cut the nuts out. Those are gone. See ya. Then they cut around the head, like slightly take the head off. They're allowing teenage boys to do this to themselves, you guys.
He said teenage boys. Well, for this part of it, yeah, I think you do have to be a teenager. Never mind. I digress.
Sorry, teenage girls to do this to themselves? Can you imagine mutating your body like this at 12 years old, 13 years old? I'm so glad my hair didn't stay green from when I dyed it when I was 12. They connect it down to the anus. Imagine doing all this and then wanting to go back and switch. Can you imagine that? These poor kids, man.
I mean, it's like animated, but it's still so hard to watch. It's still so hard to even think that they're allowing. That was from last time. It's so hard to even think that they're allowing our kids to do this to themselves. Jazz was 17. Not even, he was supposed to wait until he turned 18, but somehow I guess he was able to do it a year earlier. This was actually a slide I wanted to show you guys last time, talking about the reasons for detransitioning, because they talked about detransitioning doesn't happen, it's less than 1%, and that's just not true. So I really hope that Jazz truly is happy in the choices that were made for him on his upbringing. I think it's very likely that in the next couple of years, could be months, could be weeks, he's going to realize that he was mutilated, and I hope that if that does happen, that he is able to get some recourse for it, and that the people who did it to him, including his parents, have to pay. And mind you, he has both his parents. I know that was a question too. Was he raised in a single parent household? No, he was not. He has his mom and his dad. And they did show in that episode that I couldn't show you guys, he was in the dad was there at the appointment, and when they started talking about Jazz might not be able to orgasm, I believe it was, and he started getting queasy and feeling weird about it. And then when they started talking about, the actual process of cutting everything off, he's like, oh, I think I might wait outside. So you can't listen to it, but you can let them go and cut your sons, and you're a man. Like, you're gonna let them go and cut, mutilate your son in that way? You should be next. So I don't even think you guys can read these. So I'm just going to read a couple of the reasons why people choose to detransition. The biggest one, 70%, is I realized that my gender dysphoria was related to other issues. Can you imagine going through all of that and still not feeling right? Which is basically what Jazz was saying in that video. He went through all of this, had all of these surgeries, has been on hormone blockers his whole life. He's literally been transitioning his whole life. And now start to realize that all of this isn't going to fix my problem because I still feel the same way. At 62%, health concerns. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that he has to wear a dilator inside of his man-made vagina. He has to wear a dilator to keep it open, because there are some stories of trans women who they didn't do that and it closed up. Can you imagine that? You go through all of this, chop off what you got, spend all this money, and it closes? Like, is that even healthy? Can you still use the bathroom? I mean, at 50%, transition did not help with my dysphoria. 45% found alternatives to deal with my dysphoria, which should be offered before surgical consultation. I mean, I shouldn't have to be the one to say that. Unhappy with the social changes is 44%. Change in political views, wow, that's pretty sad. 43%. Dysphoria resolved itself over time, 34%. And I'd argue that that number is probably a lot bigger, but not a lot of people come out and talk about the fact that they want to detransition. And I think that that might be what happens to Jazz, because he has spent so much time in the public eye and, you know, being the face of transgender kids. How can he now come out and say, I'm not happy and I am not happy with what was done to me? They're going to silence him in whatever way they can. I mean, you see how hard his mom was working to get him back in line when he started to, you know, flail a little bit, when he started to feel like, this really doesn't feel right anymore. Like, I was okay with it until you decided to chop off what I had. Now, I'm not really feeling it so much, which, you know, is completely understandable. But you see how quickly she wanted to veer him back in line. No, don't think like that. Don't even think about it. You know, it's just gonna, in essence, it's just gonna give you a headache. You know, don't do that. Don't hurt yourself. Like, what? We're talking about my body. That you did this to me. You changed my body. I didn't ask for that. So the last reason is lack of support from social surroundings. So what it all boils down to is that, you know, they can't talk about it. It's like a taboo topic. We can't mention it because it goes against our narrative, and heaven forbid anyone should know that there are people out there who are unhappy with the fact that they did this to themselves. So in closing, I'm just going to, oh, there's that citizen man. I quickly was talking about these celebrities, because one thing for Jazz was that he was surrounded by a lot of, like, he got so much positive attention that he was able to meet a lot of, you know, big names, and one of those being Oprah. He had an interview with her that I was trying to show and I couldn't. But I said that to say that Citizen Man had covered what celebrities what they're really doing behind closed doors. And I'm not going to give too much because that's all him. He covers this stuff very thoroughly. So if you're curious about it, go ahead and find this stream on Rumble. If you're not following him already, you probably should. Gonna close that one. But yeah, in closing, it's really sad to see, and I really hope that Jazz is happy at this point, because there is no way that he can go back. And I just can only wish him the best. And if he does ever choose to come out about the fact that he is not happy, I really, truly hope that he's able to get some retribution from the people who did this to him. So that is all I have for you all. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't already subscribe, please do. And find me on IG, find me on Rumble. And I think that is all. Thank you for being here. And have, hold on, let me not say my goodbyes yet until I get it ready, because then it's going to be that awkward silence. So do. Have a great night. Nope, I'm still on. There's that awkward silence I was trying to avoid. Bye, y'all.